Good day, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 54. And as always, I'm going to start us off with a tune. Okay, that was the regimental march of the 4th Royal Irish Dragoons. Limbo, how are you going today, mate?
Oh, I'm doing fine, thank you, Duke. Hello. Well, it's actually good night for me, but night, everyone in the stream. Hope you're doing well.
Cool. Did you have a subject that you wanted to bring up as a start of a 10?
Well, I was going to start off with the whole the party situation with the government and whole advisor situation. Actually, a good thing to start off is with, I think, is the Chinese spy in Parliament, because that seems something
I read that.
Interesting.
Yes, I did read about that. Yes, not really very surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising. I mean, it's surprising in itself that this Chinese spy. I mean, it's kind. They were lobbying. What I've read, they were lobbying for these pro-CCP laws with Labour, Tory backbenchers. I mean, it's a given thing now. I mean, China has looking at the political framework of Parliament and said, okay, lobbying is very big with British politicians, and they're very influenced by the word money, finance. So if they can get like an MP to back abortion and they'll get paid for it, why not they can back an MP for pro CCP policy? I mean, it's that simple for them.
Wasn't the Chinese spy some description of solicitor or lawyer, I believe?
Oh, I think it was, yes.
Yeah.
Sort of a lawyer, yes.
So they would have obviously been looking at laws and all this kind of stuff, I dare say.
Oh, yes.
But no great surprise. I mean, China has spies all over the place, and they're quite often caught, but not all the time, So yeah, but I mean, in Parliament, well, I don't know. I reckon there's a lot of people in Parliament who are not friends of the British people, to be honest with you. But there we go. That's just my opinion.
There's this whole thing as well. The Conservative Party, friends with China, that in itself is sketchy as well. They have lots of CCP links and all of that nonsense. So, I mean, it's not a big shock to me that they found a singular Chinese spy. So.
No. Lady Charlotte in the chat is saying, imagine my shock, there's a Chinese spy. Australia is full of Chinese spies. Yeah. Well, they're probably, Lady Charlotte, they're probably watching Australia to see how you can be as authoritarian as possible. I sometimes think, there's going to be Australians applying for asylum in China, surely the way Australia is going at the moment. But yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah, no. I mean, uh, this. I think what this shows us, the whole spying situation, is that uh, who whether or not we can scrutinize. Well, it is scrutinizing lobbying this, but I think this definitely has a big image on British security and how something like this can easily be slipped into Parliament. So I think that's the main question for the government and our current police, because our policing and security sector, because the current government security and policing sector are focusing on all these like online hate crimes, all that malarkey. Yet they can't
Yeah.
find out a Chinese communist spy until now. It's quite ridiculous, really.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was just going to say that very thing. You know, if the police weren't wasting their time with people's tweets and so on, perhaps they would be able to find enemy spies in Parliament. You know, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
strange.
I mean, in America, this has happened. Well, America, Canada, they've paid lots of these online cultural figures just to support and praise
But
China, and this
yeah, they do.
sort of
Yeah.
this nationalistic sensation for them. So
Yes, they absolutely do that. I know there was quite a big stink recently about the number of YouTubers who were in the pay of the Chinese Communist Party, or even if they're not getting direct money, they get things like free trips to China and this kind of stuff, you know, like free airline
yeah,
tickets and
no,
all this kind of thing. And this is like not particularly political YouTubers. These are just what are called influencers.
yeah,
So hot.
influential, the soft power side of YouTube, the one
Yeah,
who've got
yeah.
the popular ones, if I have to say so myself. So
Yep. Lady of Shaw in the chat here, she said exactly. The Chinese Communist Party in Beijing actually criticised Australia for excessive foreign terrorism during the last long lockdown. Oh dear. I don't know. 6 of one and a half dozen the other, to be honest with you.
yeah.
Dear.
And if I'm correct on the whole the whole spy situation is that the UK government already knew that she had links with the Chinese Communist Party. Yet, I think it was last year, if I can recall correctly, the Parliament banned the Chinese ambassador and all Chinese delegates to go to be in Parliament. So and
yeah.
look at debates. So I'm surprised with that overall. I mean, what
Well,
what exactly happened?
as Max Ernest in the chat has said, what I want to know is who passed her clearance. That would be
Exactly,
an
that's the question
interesting.
we're asking.
Yeah, and that should have not been one person. That should have been several people, surely. But you know,
Oh yeah, of course. Is there anything
yeah.
you want to talk about, Duke?
Yes, there is actually. The first thing I wanted to bring up, you've probably heard about this jogger woman in Ireland who was sadly murdered. Like she was running for a park and someone killed her. I don't think anyone knows who it was at the moment. But
Yeah.
like
Oh
she was,
yes, no. Was it
and
Aisling Murphy, the
yes,
jogger, the
yes,
school teacher? Yeah.
yes, that's right. And for reasons best known to themselves, although she was killed in the Republic of Ireland, they are having vigils for her in Britain for reasons I do not understand at all, to be honest. And I was like reading about this on the Bias Brainwashing Corporation website, and there's all these people turning around and saying, "Oh, violence against women is totally unacceptable." Okay, fair enough. Obviously, you shouldn't murder women. You shouldn't murder men either, mind you, in my opinion. But they're also saying we need to listen to women more. How would listening to women more stop this woman getting killed by some random murderer? I don't
No, yeah,
understand.
it's a fallacy in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just utter nonsense. It really is. And every time, like a woman gets killed, and like most violence is directed at men, not women.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But every time there's a woman killed now, there's a big song and dance about it, and all men are to blame somehow. You know, I mean, I see women jogging around the place all the time. I don't go murder them.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it was the Irish deputy minister. He said, "Oh, for men, we need to understand and teach our boys that violence against women is never justified." I mean, like that could have happened to a man. I mean, what's the point here?
Yeah,
so
exactly right. Brian Borrow in the chat, who I believe is Irish, has said a Romanian was blamed and then released. And rumours are that the current main suspect is a Syrian refugee. Well, I mean, you know,
surprise! Oh, how surprising!
That wouldn't be an amazing shock, would it? Really? I mean, you know, like the other day, I had a really drunk guy at about 3 o'clock in the morning walking up and down the road, rattling sticks on the fence and all this kind of stuff. And he tried to go next door, where I've got a little old lady who is my next door neighbour, and I stopped him because, you know, she's a little old lady living on her own. And so most men are like that. They don't go and kill women. Most men are much more likely to protect a woman than to kill her. That's why so few women, relatively speaking, are actually killed.
True. Yeah. I think the whole situation itself, it's a clear sign that there's a gender behind everything, especially on minorities. It's a pawn. It's the idea of choosing your cards correctly, and as the left have the certain advantage with their soft power, they know how to change the motives, and they know how to change the arguments within it. And all we have to do is not. I don't think us spurging about it's male violence. I think what we need to say, all murder is bad in general. I think that's the general take.
Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. I mean, as this lady of said,
sensible.
Lady of Shalott in the chat here says suspicion is on a violent immigrant, but the media have turned it into an anti-Irish male campaign.
Yes, like I was alluding to, of course.
Yeah, and that's what happens every bloody time. You know, it's like a woman gets killed by some nasty nutcase, and all blokes get the blame for it, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that is ridiculous. I mean, you look at the media as well. I mean, I remember the old working classes. I mean, in Britain, especially in the Birmingham, Bradford areas, they were protesting against the Islamic rape gangs. And what did the media turn that into? They turned it into fascist far right gangs rally against Muslims. I mean, it's surprising how they do it. Actually, it's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one group, you know, the little schoolgirls, the little British white schoolgirls who are the victims of Pakistani rape gangs. They're the one group that gets ignored, even though some of them were as young as 11 years old. But they get ignored because brown people doing it.
Yeah, no, that is true. That is true.
It's just. And obviously, they don't even only do it to English schoolgirls. I mean, I believe Sikh schoolgirls were also being targeted by these people as well.
No, I mean, if you have a culture, I mean, generally, take aside white schoolgirl, like black schoolgirl. If you have a civilization, if you have a culture which deems rape of women as a certain civilization, you're a man now. I'm sorry, but get the fuck out of Britain. That's not what we want, honestly.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that. But I did just think it was worth bringing up that, like, every time this happens now, they're just turning it into an anti-male campaign because, you know, all straight men are bad, and especially all straight white men.
Oh yeah, no, that's the agenda. Trust me.
It's just, you know. But anyway, where are we going? Mitch, don't forget Jimmy Savile. Therefore, you can't talk about certain groups, right, because of Jimmy Savile. Yeah, Mitch is entirely correct, of course, in the chat.
Yeah.
They'll use him as that one bloke as the excuse all the time.
Yeah, no.
You know,
yeah, I agree with that.
when you're talking about these so-called Asian, so-called grooming gangs, you are talking about tens of thousands of victims. It's not the same as Jimmy Bloody Savile. You know,
Yeah,
Jimmy Savile was an utter scumbag, but he didn't have tens of thousands of victims because it wasn't hundreds of people doing it. It was that bloke.
Oh yeah, no. And the media tried to play this card saying, "Oh, look at the statistic. There's more white people as raping victims than Pakistani Muslims." Yet the fact is, because England is a European country, of course, it's an Anglo country. Of course, there's going to be
majority
more
of
British
people in the country.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And then if you look at
right.
proportionately, there's, as a matter of fact, there's a higher margin of these cultural Pakistani, Muslim raping gangs, which rape young innocent girls, which is disgusting.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no. But I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. But I just think it's always worth calling out this nonsense when we see it, because we see it all the bloody time now. Sail Away in the chat is saying Savile, friend of the royal family. I don't know if he was the friend of the royal family. He may have known some of them, but I'm not sure if I would say he was a friend. I think that's probably pushing it a bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's pushing it. No, I'd say that.
Oh, that brings me on to another subject. Did you notice that a chap actually damaged the statue outside Broadcasting House in London last week?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a statue which people have always said is a pedophile statue, and certainly the sculptor who created it was a very nasty pedophile. And a bloke got up there and with a sledgehammer knocked great big chunks out of it. So what we are now going to wait and see is whether he gets the same treatment in court as those people who pulled down the Colston statue in Bristol got, who were given
no.
Let's see if he gets the same treatment.
Yeah, no, we'll probably, because they have the thing is that one is more directed to the conservative side of things, like even the neoconservative sides of things, and while the BLM thing is targeted towards control, the whole agenda is controlled by the Marxists, the cultural Marxists, and it'll be interesting to see whether the courts believe in the sort of, they were doing the right thing for years, they've been fighting for that. Let's see how it goes. I mean,
look, my opinion is, if those four guys or people, because a couple of them were women, I believe, just about. In fact, the blokes look more feminine than the women did. But those four people who pulled down the Colston statue and chucked it in the Bristol docks, they got not guilty. Well, let's hope this bloke who damaged the BBC Broadcasting House statue also gets not guilty, because otherwise we will once again see that we live in a two-level sort of police state.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough analogy.
Okay, well, I suppose, unless you have anything else you want to bring up, Limbu, before we get on to it, we'll move on to our main topic for this evening. Unless you had anything else you wanted to talk about first.
Is there anything that... Well, okay, I might talk about this because it's the most recent thing to come up to me. It's all about localism and localist parties. I had this conversation with these Turning Point UK members, and they were banging on about Liverpool, the section for the Turning Point Liverpool, and they were saying, support the old Liberal Party of it. So in essence, the Whigs. Support the Whigs in your local council. I mean, and I was checking on the Whigs because, I mean, yeah, sure, I know my history on the Whigs and the old Liberal Party, but I wanted to make sure whether or not it's something which a so-called conservative group would endorse. And looking at it, it just reminded me of this just deadbeat BTEC conservative party, and just in general endorsing this idea of liberalism, classical liberalism, which in itself is bad enough because it accepts the fate of we've got to fight back for everything. It's that sort of concept of, okay, we're gonna we're just gonna really, really just accept the fate and use and conform to the fate. So that's the Enlightenment, and they believe in all this stuff like, oh, pure free market to defend who? I mean, the pure market to defend not even the workers, but defend your own business interests. I mean, and I remember debating him. He's saying, oh, Liverpool's with the Liberal Party in Liverpool, they've helped the economy. That was it. They could only mention about conserving the economy, which I find frankly disgusting. And I think I did mention this in my Conservative Party video on old conservatism, that
Mhm.
if you're only gonna mention about conserving the GDP, conserving economics and trades, I mean, really that's not really conservative. I mean, I think we've had multiple discussions on what is conservative, what's not conservative. But
Mhm.
if you have if you have small conservative youth groups espousing this bullshit, I mean, well, where are we going to be at in the next 10, 20 years? Are we going to support pure homosexuality in our schools? Are we going to be supporting all this? Are we going to be supporting this like progressive stuff? What they're espousing now? I mean, it's just a strange time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Look, look, just to make it clear to anyone in the audience or who watches this later, as a lot of people do, this is not a conservative channel at all, except in the sense of the old-fashioned sense of conservative. It's not a conservative party channel at all. I don't think any of my regular guests on this channel are supporters of Alexander Johnson's Conservative Party. Not one of them. I don't know one of them that is, and I'm certainly not. So I think that Britain badly needs a new right of centre, pro-British, pro-family, nationalist stroke populist party, and the Conservatives are, in inverted commas, because they don't conserve anything these days, are the biggest obstacle to that, in my opinion. I know one thing that we were kind of like, because we were talking a little bit like earlier in the week and earlier today, Limbo. What's your opinion of entryism into the Conservative Party? Because I don't think it will work.
Tory entryism. Well,
yeah,
I think
like
myself, looking at
good based people making their way into the Conservative Party and trying to change it from within is what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at Tory entryism like Francisco Franco's analogy to Carlism and Phalangism. So Carlism was in essence, the Jacobites of Spain. They believed that the old monarchy of Ferdinand's brother Don Carlos should have been, because he was a legitimate leader. Well, he was legitimate to the throne and brother of that, not Isabella, who would be the Alfonso line. But anyways, you had that side. They were really traditionalist. There was gentryists. They were sort of what you want to call high Tories, high Tory Jacobites of the Spanish era of that time. And then you had the Phalangists, the national syndicalists. You had certainly the fascists in Spain, them. And in 1937, you had Franco unite the two parties into the Falang Traditionalist Party, so the Carlists and the fascists uniting. And what was important to note,
didn't really hang on. Franco didn't really give the Spanish fascists any real jobs. He
didn't give them any jobs, but for the military in 1937, for the Civil War, he had to unite the Carlists in the north and the Phalangists who were dispersed everywhere to unite under one general, and that general would be General Franco, of course. So
yeah, but my point is that Franco, who was not a fascist, he was a right-wing,
he was not a fascist. No.
Franco was a right-wing traditionalist Catholic, I guess.
He was. No. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
yeah.
but he, although he absorbed the fascist side in Spain, he gave them, like, the jobs he gave them were nothing jobs. They were show jobs that didn't
No,
have
no,
any
they
power
weren't
at all.
things that
Yeah,
no. But I think my point was with that is that you have that very traditional element. You've got that deep rooted, well, traditionalist societal thought within the old Falangist party, the Fesi Johns,
sure,
uh,
sure.
and with Franco, what he did was, yes, he took away power from the Carlists, but what did he not want from the Phalangists? He didn't want this certain parallel anti-church. So he didn't want this national syndicalist, revolutionary sense in his party. He didn't want that to oppose Franco's rule. Thus, he
Mhm.
gave roles to the Carlists, the monarchists, uh, and the forgot what they're called, but the well the conservatives, the
Yeah,
conservatives in the party instead of the Phalangists, because they were already there and they had a sense of what was already in Spain and its history. And
sure.
the thing is with the national syndicalists, the Phalangists, is that they wanted to root out the monarchy. They wanted to root out everything what made Franco's power, well, Franco's what was it, his self-esteem and his certain government, his legitimate government of sense of traditionalism exist, and through and by them trying to root that out with national syndicalism and new this sort of centralized power. He didn't want
Hmm.
that type of new centralized power. Thus,
Sure.
he favored the Carlists. And I think I've said this wrong, but if I can analyze that to the Conservative Party,
Yeah.
instead of trying to go for a local part, well, a small party and probably getting nowhere. I mean, you could unite all the small parties, yeah, sure, but at the end of the day, who's actually winning? Who's actually ruling the government, and who's actually the main quote unquote center right party? It's the Conservative Party, of course. So, and the Conservative Party already has that traditional sense of root, that traditional scenting root, because the Conservative Party originally was the party of the High Church of the Church of England. It was influenced by Cardinal Newman as well. So
Sure.
it's it's very much a traditional Christian party. It's rooted in that, and if you can go to its roots, the Conservative Party, I see nothing wrong with that. But it takes time. You need to have a soft like with many things, especially with government and democracy. You need to have a soft power controlling it. It doesn't matter how much support you have. If you have that soft power, you can legitimately get elected in power. So for the Conservative Party, what is that soft power? For Labour, they have their own far left soft power. That's the trade unions. They already
Hmm.
have that. For the Conservative Party, it used to be the old Monday Club and the old Bow Group, and you had all these
Gone.
think
All of
tanks.
those. All of
But
those are gone. Yeah.
yeah, they're all gone, practically gone. So
Yep.
what you need to start is you need to start prob see this is where I kind of get um, not confused, but rather lost, because you can create a new group, but then how successful is that going to be? But at the same time, you can create a new idea in the Conservative Party, but how successful will that be again? So it's
I
just
just
with entryism, you're just double guessing.
I just think, like, the Conservative Party is excellent and expert at stopping really real right wing people from joining it and getting anywhere if they do. I think there are many grassroots conservatives who are good social conservatives. They're genuinely right wing people, but the parliamentary party is overwhelmingly liberal these days. It's not conservative at all. It's liberal. It's certainly globalist, and I think entryism into the Conservative Party is problematic, shall we say. I don't like that term because it's a leftist term, but it is. I think it's very difficult to do entryism into the Conservative Party. What I also noticed was that a lot of Brexit voters are switching to the Reform Party, which was the old Brexit Party. Now, I'm no big fan of the Reform Party, to be honest, but they're better than Conservatives because they're not the Conservatives, is my honest opinion. So, yeah. Sorry, Limbo is just dealing with something here. So
just give me a second. I'll come back in a bit. Apologies.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm going to answer a couple of questions from the chat. The thing is, says Stephen J. James, it's Boris or Starmer. Unless things change, it could easily be Sunak versus Blair by 224. Look, I don't think it'll ever be Blair. If that petition, and let me just go and check this petition actually, because I haven't looked at it for a day or two. I'll come back to you once it's loaded because it takes a while because there's so many signatures on it. But yeah, I don't think there's any chance of Blair coming back. That anti-Blair knighthood petition has proven beyond any doubt whatsoever that Tony Blair is one of the most detested and hated men in the British Isles. There is no way he is coming back. Not going to happen. And I don't care what AA says, he's completely wrong about that. Sunak worries me much more because if the Conservative, because we're going to move on to this as the next subject about whether Alexander Johnson is going to go or not, and if he goes, if that's a good thing. But if the Conservatives were stupid enough to elect Sunak or any other non-British person as the potential Prime Minister or the Prime Minister, that's the one thing that will lose them the election, in my opinion. I don't think the Conservatives will be that stupid because the one thing they're good at is hanging on to power, even if it's not doing anything useful with it when they're there. But Sunak would be the end of them. Like, I don't know anyone who would vote for Sunak because Sunak's an Indian, he isn't British. In no sense at all is Sunak British, I'm sorry. And if people want to call me a racist, then yeah, okay, fine, I'll put my hand up on the racist then. Because I don't think an Englishman would stand a chance of winning an election in India. And on that basis, nor should Sunak win one in Britain. Is my honest opinion. But yeah, I think entryism is very difficult. I have said millions of times now, well, not millions, but hundreds of times certainly, that all of the right of centre populist parties basically need to have some sort of electoral pact so they at least don't run against each other in the same seats because they're all chasing the same votes. And then maybe out of that, a natural leading good party would turn up. Gary Garner's stack of ribs, I hope I am a bit based in that regard. That, you know, if the Conservatives are idiot enough to run a black or brown person as the British Prime Minister or British leader, they'll lose. They just will lose. Because I think that, not me being based, it's the average British people are based, and they won't vote for that, I hope and believe. And as I said, I mean, just to be fair, there is no chance whatever of an English guy, even if he was born in India, becoming the Indian equivalent of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, let alone becoming the Prime Minister of India. It's just never going to happen. So, yeah, that's my view on that stuff. Okay, let's have a look at this Tony Blair thing. Here we go. The Tony Blair to have his knight companion of the Most Noble Order of the Guard rescinded campaign on change.org now has 1,113,164 signatures, and it's still going up. Like, The good thing about that, I mean, it's not going to make any difference, that petition. But what it does do is it lets Tony Blair and all the other globalist scum know how detested he really is amongst most average British people. He is utterly detested. And don't forget, he killed over 700 British soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan for absolutely sweet jack shit. Nothing whatsoever for Britain's advantage. He maimed and wounded thousands more, and he created hundreds upon hundreds of widows and thousands of orphans, all for absolutely nothing. And he's made a Knight Commander of the Grand Order of the Garter. Yeah, it's stuff, man. It's an insult to every serving and former British serviceman to give him that order, because the Garter used to be a military order. It was what was given to successful admirals and generals, and to give that to Blair is a slap in the face to everyone who's ever served in the British Armed Forces.
Apologies, I'm back now.
No worries, Limbo. I was just talking about, as far as I'm concerned, to give Tony Blair the make him a Knight of the Guard, which used to be a military order that was given to successful generals and admirals, is a slap in the face to every serving and former British serviceman. It just is.
Yeah, no, I think my dad told me when he heard news, like, why is the man who started the Iraq War getting a medal?
Yep, yeah, and of course, just to let people know, like Limbo's dad is an officer in the Gurkha Rifles, so like, you know, one of the bravest of the brave in terms of fighting men. So yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. Totally agree.
No, I just think the whole Tony Blair thing, I mean, it's disrespectful for starters. I mean,
yeah,
such a degenerate man. Just
Limbo, my son, who is a serving officer in the Royal Navy, sent me an email, and he even said it's a slap in the face to everyone who's ever served to give that man the Garter. Like, give him something else if you have to give him anything at all. I'd give him the noose, but you know, as a trader. But don't give him the Garter, which was originally like the top British military order. You know, Henry V's top generals were all Knights of the Garter, you know?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, just even if it's meant to be like a partisan medal, whatever you call it, I mean, the controversy around that man, Tony Blair, I mean, it's...
Yeah, he's a scumbag.
Yeah, it's astonishing how he can get such an award. And you've got some famous Britons who are very patriotic and who don't have knighthood. I mean, it's astounding, really.
Limbo, you would know that, like, if you're married to a British serviceman and he's killed on active service, if he's killed like on operations, you get a thing called the Elizabeth Cross. If you're the widow of a British serviceman killed on operations, you get a thing called the Elizabeth Cross, named after Queen Elizabeth II. And loads of these widows are actually sending their Elizabeth Crosses back to the Queen because they're so disgusted that Tony Blair's getting the Garter.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, definitely they should. I mean, it's not the right thing to do.
Totally agree. All right, we're going to move on to our what I think is going to be our main topic for this evening, and that is, this morning for me, but this evening for you guys, is Alexander Johnson. Should he go? And if he does go, is that a good thing or a bad thing or what?
I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat that, Duke?
Alexander Johnson, should he go? Because there are, at the moment, there are senior Conservative MPs telling Alexander Johnson he needs to go. And there are votes of no confidence going in to the Conservative 1922 committee And what I'm saying is, should he go? And if he does go, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And who the hell could replace him?
I think for the actually no. Would you want to do it? Or would you want to explain it first, you?
Well, my opinion is that he should go, yes, because we're never going to get a real Brexit under Alexander Johnson. Never going to get a real Brexit under Alexander Johnson. It's just not going to happen. I mean, one of his aims was that we never get one. If he goes, I've got no idea who could replace him, because I doubt there are even 50 real Conservative MPs in the Conservative Parliamentary Party. And if he goes, if that's a good thing for us on the right, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't. I see, like, No Name in the chat here is that these were the names that came up when I was talking about this to people earlier. Lord Frost, David Davis, yeah, maybe.
I've got a bone to pick with both of them. I'll probably explain it in my segment, but continue.
No, go for it. Do it now, mate. Do it now.
Well, you see, when it comes to the Conservative, like I said, I'm a Conservative Party myself. I think it's better off as Conservatives and traditionalists to keep Boris Johnson on. So when he loses the 2024 election, he'll resign, and we will get. I actually do believe so. We will have a 1997, not 1997. No, I believe a 1995 Conservative moment where we'll have a traditionalist, well, sort of in the sense, a traditionalist candidate against the establishment character. So what I'm referring to is the 1995, the original, well, a young traditionalist John Redwood versus an establishment John Major. I think that will happen, and I think it's better off if we do have that runoff instead of kicking Boris Johnson off right now. But the candidates to replace Boris Johnson are not looking great, in my opinion. I mean, Lord Frost, for him, I've got a bone to pick from. He's one of them MPs, like I've said, he's one of them liberal
Frost,
MPs, which...
How can Lord Frost be Prime Minister? I mean, like, I know in theory you can be a Prime Minister in the House of Lords, but there hasn't been one since Salisbury, as far as I know.
Oh, yeah, no.
And people tell me that David Davis, who's a good guy on Brexit, is also pro-mass immigration, which I don't know if that's true, actually, but I've been told that.
Oh, yeah, no, he is. I mean, half the Tory MPs, they've got, like, sometimes you look at them, like, they're all right, but then you dig deep into their career and you realize half of them are, like, these, like I mentioned earlier, you can easily persuade them by lobbying groups. And these traditionalist Tory MPs have been swayed by money. I mean, look at Edward Ley. I mean, I like the guy. He's the leader of the Cornerstone faction and the Cornerstone faction. However, he has links to pedophilia. He has links to helping pedophilic lobbyist groups. So I'm confused with that. How is that traditional Catholic? I mean, how is that conservative in any sense? So,
well, there's quite a lot of Labour MPs who've got links to that stuff too, to be fair.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, obviously that's completely beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. Puffwagon in the chat, who really gives a crap? The whole country is in the shit. All right, well, we should all then get up, cut our throats, and that'll be the end of it then. All right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Just do an NRX and forget we live in.
See, I was not born and was not brought up to be a coward, and if we don't fight, then we're fucked. Excuse my language, but we are.
Exactly. No, I mean, there's no point just giving up, just saying, oh yes, the Conservative Party is messed up. There's no point doing anything. I mean, I think there's always a point to everything. I mean, like, for example, there's always a point of loving your nation. There's always a point of loving your history, your standards, and what made England England, and what made the United Kingdom, of course. It's all God's plan, of course. Only the righteous will win. So that's what we have to look out for, of course.
Well, I mean, as I said to someone last week, none of us really know what's going to happen next week. We certainly don't know what's going to happen in a year, and we sure don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. My only view is that we have to keep fighting. Puffwagon, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with you. I think
the National Front are full of loonies.
No, hang on. Let me answer this, Limber, and then you can have your say on this. My opinion is every single time British nationalism goes down the Nazi LARPing front, it dooms it. And I would carry that on right up to today with so-called patriotic alternative and Mark Collette. Every single time we go down that route, it dooms us to fail. But keep doing what's failed time after time after time, because that doesn't prove you're insane. It just proves you're stupid. I want to save Britain. I want us to get back to some realistic situation. But going down the mid-20th century German route is never, ever going to fucking will do it. And I'm sorry, guys. If you think it is, you're idiots.
No,
Why do you think it's been failing for the past 70 years? And if you don't believe me, let me tell you. Go and look at the stream I did with Eddie Butler just before Christmas on the late great Jonathan Bowden. Go and watch that stream.
No, that was a good stream. Yeah, that was. I would recommend it. Even not talk about the National Front.
Okay, no name. No name is saying here, PA are staying well away from Nazi LARPing, to be fair. When you say that, are you including when Mark Collette said his 3 favourite books were, let me remember, George Norman Rockwell of the American Nazi Party, Dr., in inverted commas, David Duke, formerly of the Ku Klux Klan, and Mein Kampf. Was that him staying well away from Nazi LARPing, was it? Sorry, mate.
Let
me be perfectly honest here. My own opinion is that Mark Collette is a British government asset at this stage. That's why he's still around. That's why he doesn't ever get into trouble. We just had a bloke in the UK who got 5 years in jail for having 2 or 3 books that you could buy on Amazon. But Mark Collette gets away with it all the time. And I reckon he's a British government asset, and he's there to deliberately pull people down a shit route. And I don't care what AA or anyone else says on that. That's my opinion on it. And I am somebody. Yeah. And listen, I did 2 tours in Northern Ireland, mate. And trust me, the Provisional IRA were vastly more well organised than any crappy Nazi LARPer group in the UK. And the British government completely infiltrated them. So don't you think for a minute that someone like Mark Collette could not be a British government asset, because he could be. And why do they go around asking people for emails and names and addresses and all this stuff when they're not even a political party? They're not even a political party. They cannot even get themselves registered as a political party. People need to grow up. And we have had this same stuff in the UK ever since the late 1950s at least, when all these bloody idiots who wanted to go on about mid-century Germans and all the rest of it have failed time after time after time after time. It needs to stop. When are people going to grow up? If you keep doing the same stuff that fails all the time, that's insanity. We need a real a pro-British, actually British, nationalist, pro-British, pro-family party that's got nothing to do with mid-century Germans. I'm sorry, I get this makes me angry because I see it so often. And I am seeing it even today with new people coming up who are going down this same stupid, failed route.
If I could interject, I think this kind of links with my earlier point with Tory entryism.
Go
Just
for it, mate.
well,
Go for it.
joining a new party or just creating something so LARPing traditionalist, like presented with my analogy with the Falang and the Carlists. I mean, the only way to do so is actually reforming the party itself and the Conservative Party, which isn't something that hard if you look at the regulations and all that within the Tory party itself.
Yeah, absolutely right. Just to answer Brian Borrow in the chat, doctor in inverted commas Duke, because he bought that doctor thing from somewhere in Central Europe, was also a Democrat. Yeah, the Ku Klux Klan were all Democrats, mate, back in the day.
Yeah, they're all Democrats. It's a demographic thing, of course. After Nixon's election, he used the states' rights idea, and he influenced the South with that. While the Democrats became more progressive with their policies, and the Blue Dog Democrats they declined. So, of course, it's not. Of course, they were going to be Democrats. I mean, it's it's natural political demographic shifting. The Great Switch, they call it, because even if you look at the 50s, I mean, look at it. You had the heretical lustful man of Martin Luther King. He was a Republican. I mean, MLK. He was a bad man. Yet he was a Republican due to being in the northern side of America. I mean, it's due to political ideologies and demographics at the time, of course. So you just can't really bring up that argument.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree. Hang on, I need to answer this one. Stephen J. James, he's asking me, 6th of February, Sunday, is Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, 7 years on the throne. Any plans? Yeah, I'm going to get absolutely drunk so that I don't remember how much Britain has subsided and died and been destroyed over the last 70 years. Does that answer your question there, Stephen J. James? In 70 years ago, Britain was still a great world power with easily the second largest navy in the world, and still quite a bit of the British Empire, most of the British Empire, in fact, apart from India. Today, look at the state of us. And what were the last two speeches that Queen Elizabeth did? We should all be greenies. And what was the other one? I'm trying to remember now. There was another one she did. Probably supporting mass immigration or something, knowing the stuff that come out of this day. I mean, honestly,
let's not get too hasty.
No, listen, I've been on streams, and someone like Lady of Shalott will know this because I was on Apostolic Majesty's stream when he did an anti-Queen Elizabeth II stream, although a fairly accurate one, and I tried to defend her because I did swear an oath of allegiance to her as an 18-year-old British soldier many, many, many moons ago. But you know what? Since her husband died, and all right, she's a 95-year-old old lady, but since her husband died, she just seems to have totally lost the plot, as far as I can see.
No, that's unfortunate. It's a bit like Queen Victoria, I'm pretty sure. After Albert died, she lost the plot.
Well, no, she did for a while, but Queen Victoria came back eventually.
Yeah, eventually. But
yeah, she did. But I mean, to be fair, she was. Sure. Yeah, but she was much younger, of course, than Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. But yeah, I'm sorry. I think the royal family is in really big trouble when Her Majesty the Queen eventually dies, and long may that be delayed.
I think Charles is a very much. Lots of people compare him to, well, what was it, Charlie the Pretender, because he's very much a traditionalist in the monarchist sense. So I think we have no problems with that. Same as Williams, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Charles is an idiot climate change greenie. Like
yeah, but that was a one-off. Well, I mean, he's been doing it for years, though. I mean, he's a bit of an environmentalist, to say it. Neither left or right. I mean, it's a PR stunt, the whole cop thing. I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, all right. I don't know. I don't want to get into it because, like I said, I did swear an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, which I do take seriously. And while she's still the Queen, I still take it seriously, even though I do not like the stuff she's been coming out with recently at all. But I mean, at the moment, I'm on a bring back the Plantagenets kick, to be honest with you. I like the last Plantagenet pretender that I knew about was a Australian cow station owner who seemed pretty based. I'd kind of sooner have him, to be honest.
fair enough.
I mean, and he's a Plantagenet pretender, so like, his claim goes back a damn long way. So that's just I don't like Charles. I've got to say, Dostastic Draco in the chat. I'm not a big fan of Prince Charles. I'm just not. Brian Borrow saying he's descended from the Plantagenets. There you go, mate. Good on you.
Nice one.
But yeah, I'd say that. I mean, I know there are some people who want to bring back the Stuart claimant, who I think is some sort of Austrian duke.
The whole Jacobite Stuart thing is the whole LARP. Even as a Catholic myself, the Windsor line is much more British, and it's much more British than the whole Jacobite Luxembourg Austrian bullshit. I mean,
I don't know enough about this to say, but like I said, I did like the bloke who was the Australian cow station owner in the outback, who was the Plantagenet pretender. So yeah. I mean, I'm not even joking. I am not in any way, shape, or form a Republican. Britain should be a monarchy, but I am very, very dubious about the House of Windsor these days. I just am.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, I think a funny thing to talk about the Stuart line is that there's the famous Scottish Rebellion Catholic song, "We German Loudy." But if you want to look at the whole the Stuart line claim thing now, the current, well, if it was supposed, if the Windsors were usurped and the Jacobites Stuarts did come in, it would have been a Luxembourg Austrian German person. So
yeah,
that's the irony there.
All right, but look, Max Ernest in the chat is saying the Windsors are German. They changed their name. Yeah, they did. They were Saxe.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Hanoverians.
Yeah, they were Saxe Coburg Gotha, absolutely. But let us remember that the Anglo-Saxons are also to a large degree German.
No, that's
originally the Anglo-Saxons are to a large degree German, maybe a bit Danish, but so that's not as big a deal as you think it would be, to be honest with you. And like I was talking to Limbu about this earlier, and one of the things that people get wrong, I think, when they look at Britain, like I am very strong on the whole freeborn Englishman story and the ancient liberties of British people, but those liberties are not, as some people think, liberties that go back to the 18th century. There are liberties that go back, in Britain's case and in England's case, to medieval times, because the Anglo-Saxons were not a feudal culture at all. Obviously, William the Bastard, after his victory in 1066, tried to bring feudalism into England, but it was really never very deeply settled in England. And the Black Death, the Great Plague in the 1300s, completely killed it off. Natman Prime in the chat saying wrong, the English are mostly Danish. That's not true, mate. Sorry, just not. The Anglo-Saxons were mostly German with a bit of Danish. There were Danes who came over with the various Viking invasions that Alfred the Great and the Anglo-Saxons mostly fucked up, but yeah.
I think naturally, if you give the monarchy a sense of power. And if you do give them political power in Britain, I'm sure, because inherently monarchs are, especially if you want to look at, well, even the Protestant theology of divine rights of king, that ordained spirituality given to the monarch, Britain would be in a much better position if the Hanoverians in the 17th, I believe the 18th century, would have cared and not given the role to Lord of Liverpool to control whole of England and Wales and Scotland. If Britain focused on if the monarchs, the Germans, focused on the path of actually controlling Britain and having that control, I definitely do see uh, Britain having a different situation, a more traditional situation, which would, well, benefit the both of us. I do have to say so myself.
Fair enough. Let me just say to Natman Prime in the chat, Survive the Jive does not say so. He actually did a talk for the Traditional Britain group, which I know Limbu wants to talk about, at Christmas. And he actually specifically points out in that talk, which you can go and look up on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And I like Survive the Jive, by the way. I think he's a good chap and he does lots of good history. And he actually points out, no, the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes were mostly German, really, with only a little bit of like Danish stroke Viking, although Viking's not really the right term because that was something you did rather than the people. But yeah, and I know, Limbu, you wanted to talk about the Traditional Britain group, didn't you?
Yeah, the traditional the traditional British group aren't they? Well, listen, I was part of the whole High Tory movement. That good meme Twitter thing. It was funny. I do love High Tories, and it's something which the Conservative Party should strive for. However, overall, I just think the whole group is just essential just laughing for sense of just feudalism and all that. Because I mean, yeah, sure, they have speakers, they have.
Sorry, carry on, man. Can't hear you.
Oh no, apologies. That I thought I didn't know I muted that. Because yeah, sure, they have speakers, they have like, yeah, ministers coming on, and they once had Jacob Rees-Mogg come on, but just overall, their focus aim is just to, oh yes, establish this, well, sort of culture behind high Toryism and not go forward. I remember reading something about that saying, do instead of actually controlling the Conservative Party and actually doing something with politics and taking your gains with it, just create the culture behind it. Which, sure, you can create the culture behind it, and if you can influence power with that, you can do something. You can do wonders with that, especially with the Conservative Party. However, with the position with the traditional British group as it is right now, and with them just saying, let's create a culture, but let's not do anything with it because there's no point. It's not that compelling to me, and I just certainly see it as law.
Sorry, Limbo, I'm just answering something in the chat.
Pardon, Duke? I didn't quite catch that.
I'm just answering someone in the chat, mate.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. No, so
okay.
So yeah, the traditional Britain group. Yeah, that's my overall stance on it.
I don't know. I generally like what they have to say. For the most part, I believe they were on Millennial Yule this year, weren't they?
Oh, I think they were. I did see Odyssey, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I thought so. But loads of people were on Millennial Yule this year that I wouldn't have expected to see on Millennial Yule. But there we go.
If the traditional British group are watching, though, I think they should, if they do want to enlighten me with their stances and all that, they can definitely give me a little Discord text.
I'm actually thinking of getting someone from the traditional Britain group onto a stream, like on this channel, at some stage.
Oh, yeah, that would be good because You see, I respect them. I think they were the first high Tory group I contacted, and they were pretty friendly with that. But at the same time, with my knowledge, with the traditional British group, it's quite conflicting. So it'd be good to sort everything out.
Dostastic Traco in the chat. I'm pretty sure they were on there this year as well. In fact, I think the same chap was on there this year as well. But anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, you know as well as I do, Limbo, that what we were talking about earlier was that we were somewhat arguing about whether a lot of these traditional English and British freedoms were 18th century or medieval. And I think I can make a pretty good case that the vast majority of them were really medieval and not 18th century.
No, you do make a case. Your points are based on Hilaire Belloc. Belloc talks about that in his Distributism book as well. I mean, you do have a point. However, I think with British liberties, I mean, I think Rufus August did a thing on it that of course these liberties and these words are going to change over time, and whether we like it or not, it's going to change for the worse. And it has changed for the worse. The idea of liberty becoming an individual concept for the man and going against his state and his government and his nationhood for his own hedonistic self-satisfaction. That's what we currently see with English, well, at least Western liberty. I mean, but no, I understand your point
see,
with English.
but like I am an absolute British exceptionalism dude, and I would argue that things like habeas corpus and trial by jury and innocent until proven guilty and stuff like obviously the ability to own property freehold and stuff. Another thing that is English common law, or used to be anyway, was anything not specifically made illegal.
Yeah, no, collective community
go
liberty.
legal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
And all of that stuff does not go back to the 18th century in Britain. It goes back to medieval times in Britain. As I said to you when we were talking like earlier, it was this is why the English armies in the 100 Years' War were made up of professional warriors and professional soldiers, while the French armies, until right at the end of the 100 Years' War, were made up of feudal hosts. Because feudalism, which was never more than skin deep in England, because William the Bastard tried to impose it, but it never got very deep. And the Black Death killed it off absolutely in the 1300s. So that by the mid-1300s, the idea of freeborn Englishmen who were in no way, shape or form any sort of serf, even if they were someone who was very low born, was absolutely the truth, which was not in any other part of Europe as far as I understand.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. Yeah, like I said, if you have this sense of a community liberty, doing what your community wants, what's good for the community, that is a liberty. I think, what was his name? Endeavour talks about in his Enlightenment series. That's something which we should strive for. So basic Englishman liberties. But I think especially the British system, it's influenced very much by the idea of liberty, well, this Enlightenment idea of liberty. And this can be seen through the court system, how they've allowed so much of these refugees to come back to England due to the Human Rights Act and how they express liberty. The law is too intertwined.
But the Human Rights Act is not even British law.
Yeah, but the courts still uphold it, though. The concept of it.
Yeah, it's European law. It's the European Court of Human Rights, which, in my opinion, is one of the main things that the UK should have left with Brexit.
No, yeah, that is one reason, but it's still being upheld by these British governments and all that. Because I was reading this website, it's called Liberty, and it talks about refugees coming to the UK and how they're protected under the Human Rights Act due to this said liberty in Clause 5 of liberty and freedom of movement. Well, not freedom of movement, just liberty and freedom. So I don't know about that one, Duke.
Yeah, I mean, look, No Name in the chat here is saying that's a very good point about the Black Death and feudalism. It was from the point of the 100 Years' War you see successful common soldiers climb the social ladder. Well, look, we know of at least two common archers who started off as common Fred Bloggs archers in a English army who were knighted and became Sir somebody or other. And for a lot better reason, obviously, than fucking Tony Blair.
Yeah, no. That's something we can both agree on.
And that would have been absolutely impossible in France in the 1400s. And indeed, it would have been absolutely impossible in France in the 1800s.
No,
like I said,
yeah.
I mean, you know, Napoleon was an officer in the artillery in the Royal French Army, but only because his family were minor aristocracy in Corsica.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whereas an Englishman could start off absolutely at the bottom of the ladder, and if he was talented, brave, and lucky enough, he could get forward.
But I think looking aside from feudalism, if there is this notion that we need to keep this sort of hierarchy of sorts. So definitely, I think that still needs to be in order.
I'm not against hierarchies. I'm just against them being impermeable. Like, I'm not in favor of hierarchies that are not permeable.
Oh, okay, I see.
I don't get me wrong. I don't think everyone needs to be able to go up, like, I don't know, 5% or points or whatever it is. But I think the very talented, the very brave, and the very lucky need a chance of being able to do so, which in Britain you always had. And you had it going back into medieval times. It was not an 18th century invention.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, that's fair enough. I think with the French, though, one way which you could climb the ranks, I mean, this links with the old traditional soft power back in France and its constitutions, was that you could become a clergyman. Even becoming a priest, you could rise the ranks in France because it was very influential back in the times. I remember I was reading this historical case of the priest of Orleans. He was there. He blessed his church there, and he was very well known in Orleans, even in a small, because Orleans is it was a big area, and there's like about 2 or 3 churches in the main area of Orleans. Yet that one priest, I forgot what his name was, he was influential because he would bless people. He would talk to his local community, and he rose the ranks through basic Catholicism, actually. So if you're there and you have the right ideas, I don't think you could rise the ranks possibly.
Well, here's one for you, Limbu. All right, I'm agnostic, as you know. And that is like a retreat for me because I used to be an atheist, but these days I'm an agnostic. But I'm a cultural Christian because we all are in the West these days. But here's a question for you. What I hear is that Prince Charles, if he becomes king, doesn't want to be the defender of the faith. He wants to be a defender of the faiths, i.e., not even just Christianity.
I mean, but doesn't the problem of multiculturalism, doesn't that stem from a long eluding period of that? I mean, if mass immigration would have been cut off years ago, decades ago, I'm pretty sure Charles wouldn't have, recommended it at all, the defender of multiple faiths. So
yeah, I mean, my point is, like, the monarch, the king or queen of Britain, is the head of the Church of England. And if they're
Oh
not the
yeah,
head
yeah.
of, and if they're not the head of the Church of England, that is like one of their major props just totally gone.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the thing is that with all this, well, you chemical, this euchemical malarkey and this like pandering to all these other religions is that you, it's not really the church's fault nor the king's fault. I mean, trust me, if if the situation would have been any different, I mean, I'm sure they would have not done anything. I mean, because for example, with the church, with England, you've got Justin Welby at the helm. And he used to be an ex-bank, well, not ex-oil driller for Shell, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think that's something you want as Archbishop of Canterbury, of course. So.
Oh, look, I'll be honest with you, Libu, and I'll ask you this as a nice question. I would say that the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Pope in Rome are in a mutual competition to see how left-wing and anti-European they can be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was the Church of England are actually they're pretty anti-European at the outset. I remember. Do you remember the whole Liverpool bombing situation?
Yeah, no, I remember
Yeah,
that. But I mean, come on, Limbo, you can't pretend that the current Pope is like some sort of base traditionalist because he bloody well isn't.
no, he's not. He's not a base traditionalist, but yet again, the supremacy of his pontiff is needed. I don't listen. I don't agree with the current pope. What most of the pope says isn't infallible, anyways. So I'm not tending to
Yeah,
him. Of
I
course.
do understand that. I've known enough Catholic guys to like have taught me that most of what the Pope says is not stuff that the Catholic Church has to take notice of. But the fact is that the head of the Church of Rome is absolutely a left wing feminist pro mass immigration moron. I'm sorry, he just
I think
is.
no. I think theologically, he's a left wing nut job, but when it comes to his papacy and his actual his actual doctrine, I think he's quite conservative. Yeah, sure. Lots of people paint him as a loony. Yeah, sure. And I think he's a loony because of his theological stances. But he's consistently been against homosexual marriage. He's consistently been against this idea that you can't have children, especially European children. He's been against multiple of these left wing ideas. He's been against the EU multiple times before.
What
So
about his recent stuff against the traditional Latin Mass?
the true, well, you see, it's been going on for the ages. The whole motu proprio ecclesia day. It goes back to the Second Vatican Council. That does, but I think for him that's theological, and I don't support his theological changes at all. I think there's better things to attack. For example, there's lots of heresies within the new mass. So
Yeah, I mean, look,
the Pope, yeah.
I'm not even going to pretend I understand Roman Catholic stuff in that regard. But to me, looking at it as a pro-Western outsider who is absolutely a cultural Christian because you can't not be these days. To me, like the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Pope are in a race to the bottom, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair enough. I mean, you see, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a fan of Francis, but I think Francis at the end of the day is trying to keep his competence while with uh, Justin Welby, it seems like he's lost everything. I remember seeing him once, and he was talking about how homosexuals and feminists and transvestites can be accepted into heaven and all that stuff. I mean, I think he's already lost the case there. But while with the
Yeah,
Pope, at least he can defend himself.
I'm not going to argue with any of that. Although I would take note that the Pope doesn't wear the traditional red shoes.
Oh no, he doesn't wear the papal slippers. No, because
Yeah,
he's a
and
Jesuit. I mean, he's a Jet. Of course, he's not.
yeah,
His
but
vestments
those
aren't traditionalist at all. He's a Jesuit.
yeah, but the red shoes go back right to the Roman Empire, with the Pontifex Maximus.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I mean, even Benedict wore them. I mean, it has to do with, I think, the Pope's own convictions. Like I said, he's a Jesuit. I don't know why Jesuits can be Pope in the first place, but they're how he's elected as a cardinal. So there's questions to raise there. But
yeah, okay,
no, like I
enough.
said, theologically. So when it comes to actual church stances, like papal slippers, Latin Mass, and the dubia, he's bad. I'm not going to lie. He doesn't favor us at all. But when it comes to social issues, non-political issues, I do think he can at least defend himself, and he's defended the church multiple times, so I can respect that.
Brian Burrow in the chat is saying the Greek Orthodox Patriarch is pretty woke too. Well, unfortunately, Brian Burrow, we don't have George, aka Ozzy, who is of that faith. So I can't answer that, and I doubt that.
I can. Well, for example, they've already given up the right to Constantinople, so they've already said it's Islamic now. They've given up on defending that, so that's pretty chemical woke. So
really, okay. Well,
yes, they have. So it's like,
I mean, it might be realistic. It might be realistic, but it's sad.
No, it is sad. I mean, they can't even make a spiritual debate against it. So,
well, like I said, I'm not going to get heavily into that because, when George / Ozzy comes back on, when he ever notices we're doing a stream, he can talk about that because that's his faith. So, I'm not going to. One of the things I really hate about the modern right, and you may have even noticed this with the stuff I've been talking to Limbo about, is I hate the idea that Catholics have to get into arguments with Protestants and Orthodox people and all the rest of it. I just think we have so many outside enemies that we do not need to do infighting. We just don't.
I mean, yeah, sure.
We can agree. We can agree to disagree on some stuff.
If I want to use my Spanish Civil War analogy again, the reason why the nationalists won was because they united like fascists, monarchists, conservatives, Catholic. I mean, they all united against the communist anarchists. I mean, because they couldn't unite, and I agree with the sentiment behind it, but I think when it comes to actual Christian theology, it's something you just simply can't give in. I mean, for example, with Hound of Ulster talking about he'll come back to the Catholic faith when Virginia or Mel Gibson's Pope. He's probably a sedevacantist, and yeah, sure. I mean, you can mention Bishop Williamson. He's good, but he's SSPX resistance. That's really cringe. I mean, when it comes to theological debates, you just simply can't give in to, you chemicals. You can't just give in to say,
listen,
faith is like
Limbo. I would suggest that what we can do is we can have theological debates between various Christian faiths and also between perhaps Christians and pagans and even Christians and agnostics. We can have those debates on another level, okay, that are on that level about, theology and so on. But in the face of our common enemies, who are those on the left, and also the corporate globalists like Alexander Johnson, those guys, we shouldn't have those debates in front of those people.
Oh, no, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't have public infighting. You can have a jovial debate once in a while. I mean, especially on theology. But overall, I agree.
I know you're a full-on Catholic, and you're very very keen on this, as you can even see from your avatar. But I'm not going to argue with you about that stuff in front of fucking leftists who hate both of us.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, yeah. Even some of the greatest conservatives, right wingers, haven't been Catholic nor Protestant or Orthodox. I mean, that's something we need to consider. So
Yeah, listen, that's my view. I've got no problem. I even sometimes watch some of the theological debates. I mean, I lose myself in some of them because, like, you guys go into such details about stuff that I don't know much about, to be honest. But I'm happy to watch those. But I don't think it's useful for right wingers to do that in public when, in terms of like dividing us against our common enemy, if that makes any sense.
yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree with that. But if I could reply to Lady Charlotte, the whole
Go for it.
Vatican Holy See jabbing situation, that's only compulsory for the hospital staff and the university staff. None of that is to the curia. So the cleaners, the cardinals, the bishops residing in the Vatican, they don't need to receive a jab. And the Catholic Church doesn't have a specific stance on the COVID vaccine, which is bad enough actually, because they should be against the vaccine. But it's the diocesan bishops who actually make the decisions on whether or not their diocese should get a mandate for vaccination. So, unfortunately, in Quebec and Canada, you're going to get bishops like whatever that cardinal's called. He called all Catholics in parishes to get a vaccine, or else you're not allowed in a church, which is unfortunate enough. So I mean, to be honest, it would be better if the church, for example, Pope Francis, has a strong stance and says, okay, the Johnson and Johnson AstraZeneca have both been tested on abortion cell lines, and they both have strands of abortion cell lines. That should be the case for the Vatican, but they haven't given that case, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I look, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm the older I get, the more anti-abortion I get. So yeah, I look, I had two girls have abort my children, so yeah. I still think that the only thing that worries me a bit about the whole trad cath thing is that they seem more interested in attacking Protestants and the Orthodox guys than they do attacking the left, who hate all of us. Like the left will just pick us off bit by bit,
No, I agree with that, but as a traditional Catholic myself, when you want to look at culture, especially history of the Catholic Church, you can see it's very much the Protestants and the Orthodoxes. They're the ones who've actually, matter of fact, aside everything when there has been peace, culture has attacked the Catholic Church. For example, in when England and Holland united, they spread propaganda that uh, the Pope was the devil, and in the Austrian Union debate, Martin Luther.
1600. That's the 1600s, mate.
Yeah, because history is inherent. I'm probably going to say this after reading a good book of mine. So who the book is called Western Civilization, built by the Roman Catholic Church. History in itself is inherently, especially Anglosphere, Anglosphere culture is very much against Catholicism, and so I think naturally traditional Catholics are more inclined to attack Protestant Orthodoxes due to that reason, which I can see a case for, but end of the day, there's no. I agree with you. There's no point. Unity is much more better against the left.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But let me just point out this thing that Stephen J. James has just said, which I actually know to be true. None of this religion first stuff has any constituency in the UK. Church attendance is down to half a dozen old ladies in their 80s and vicars who travel around.
No. Okay, if I can reply to Stephen J.
Hang
James,
on,
actually.
you can, but let me finish. And
Oh,
vicars
sorry, Duke.
and vicars who travel around multiple churches taking money. Well, okay, Limbo, carry on.
See, the thing is with all of this, the reason why it's gone down is due to liturgical change and doctrinal change within. So you can look at Latin Mass attendance. Sure, it's increased massively with the youth, and there was these recent surveys done by the Catholic news agencies, Etienne, and these multiple Catholic groups. People who attend the Latin Mass, 98% of them do not support abortion, do not support same-sex marriage, supports a monarchy, and in a very much sense supports traditionalism. While with the new liturgy, the post-Vatican Second Council liturgy, the aka the Protestant bipartisan church euchemical mass Eucharist, that one, 83% of them support homosexual marriage. 83% of them support all these reforming liberal ideas. It's not about, I think you can even see after the Second Vatican Council, church attendance fell due to the sense of the confused laity and how people were confused of doctrine changing so quickly due to the 60s, 70s acceleration with the new concept of the sexual, what was that called? Sexual revolution and like all that shit, like Woodstock and all that. So you can't just necessarily blame religion in the first place for falling attendance. It's rather not our fault. It's just doctrinal stuff, to be honest. So
I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, like I come back to my original point. I think that Christian faiths attacking each other is like completely counterproductive. I really do. We have so many bigger and much more powerful enemies. The idea of Roman Catholics attacking the Church of England, or Roman Catholics in the Church of England attacking the Orthodox, etc., is just, it's ridiculous to me. There is no point to it. All it's going to do is strengthen our enemies. It's a bit like, which you get all the time on the right. Every little subgroup on the right attacks every other little subgroup on the right. And we spend more time doing that than we do attacking our real enemy, which is the left and the corporate globalists.
Yeah. No, I mean, there can be an effort for that, definitely.
That's my own view. Like, as I say, I like many trad caps. Well, actually, not. Let me change that slightly. I like 2 or 3 good trad caps. No. I like you, for example. Obviously, you're my friend.
Oh no, that's yeah.
But I mean, I like people like the Distributist, who is a pretty much trad calf, I guess. And I like some of the other trad calves. But I also like some trad Church of England, high church people. I got married in a high church, and my son was baptized in a high church, Church of England church, where my wife's grandfather, who was a CPO on HMS Warspite, a British battleship in World War II, was buried. But, you know, and I have nothing against people like George, aka Aussie, who are Orthodox. I don't care. So long as you're broadly on my side, we can argue about details later on if we ever manage to win.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair enough.
That's my honest view. You know, it's a bit like for years there was nonsense between the English and the Irish. I did 2 fucking tours in Northern Ireland, for God's sake. But these days, Ireland is just as threatened by mass third-world immigration, totally supported by Sinn Féin provisional IRA, by the way, who were always Marxists in their leadership, as UK is. So, like, we have bigger issues now. We
Yeah,
have
no.
much bigger issues that we need to unite to fight against, and our differences, we can sort them out later.
Oh yeah, no. Like I've said multiple times, I think when it comes to Northern Ireland, I would rather prefer strong loyalist orange men, Protestants, than gay IRA Republican faggots. I've said that multiple times before.
Well
I
said,
mean,
mate. Well said. I
yeah.
totally agree with you. I suspect a great many Republican Irishmen would also agree with you, actually, about Sinn Féin and Pyra, certainly. AJ in the chat here, who I presume is just a twat, is going on my based Hong Kongers and my queen who supports Black Lives Matter. Come up with something more interesting than that, mate, and then I will answer you, because that's just shit take. What's your take? The great Austrian painter? Let me guess. Maybe it is. But yeah. Maybe. I don't know, man. Like I said, we have bigger enemies these days, guys. And
We do.
and we need to unite to fight against those guys. And if we can manage to beat those guys or hold them off, then we can go into little details about all this stuff that we don't like about each other.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think with AJ's comments, our enemies are the conservatards as well as more useless cunts. I mean, there is argument for that. The current conservatives and liberal conservatives, if you want to say so, neocons, they're useless boomer cons, but I think they're much more easily persuadable to our side rather than, let's say, per se, liberals, because at least with these neocons and these liberal conservatives, that they have a sense of sort of hierarchy and this sense of this neo-pluralism. So I think they can easily be on our side, but if we certainly give them a lesson or two. So
well, I mean, look at it this way. Christopher Hitchens, who is the less good Hitchens brother, who's not dead, went from Trotskyist to neoconservative. Likewise, Tony Blair went from Trotskyist at university to, when he was in charge of New Labour, basically being a neoconservative. And neoconservatives are not conservatives at all, not even slightly.
I think Tony Blair, there's one for him and one for the other, but usually in sense of neoconservatives, you can definitely round something up. I've seen it before. I mean, I'm not a fan of Nick Fuentes. I've said that multiple times before, but you can see how Nick Fuentes influenced lots of these young neoconservative Turning Point PragerU types of lads, of these like Zionist lads. They ultimately turned into these Paleo-American traditionalist paleocons. Now, I've got my things against paleocons, of course, but that's at least a good step.
Actually, I like paleocons. I'm quite close to those guys, to be honest. I would just say that, you can't. Neoconservatism is in no way, shape, or form actual conservatism.
No, it's not. No,
all it is trying to spread the pause all around the world to aim for a one world government, which is like pretty obviously what everybody now wants. Like the people with power. I mean, if you don't believe that they want a one world government now, you've got to be as thick as three short planks, basically. And I'm not even talking about Joe Biden and Alexander Johnson and Angela Merkel and that old lady fucker in France, Macron, all having Build Back Better as their slogan. I mean, that's just a coincidence, isn't it? For God's sake. I mean, how dumb do they think people are? I mean, okay,
No, I mean,
they think people are really dumb, obviously, because of the lockdowns and all the rest of it. But you know, a one world government is the whole thing they're aiming at the moment. You know,
yeah,
all these dystopian fictional books and movies that we've seen over the years, where the UN runs the whole world, and most people live in absolute dire poverty. And that's where we're going. And if you can't see that, then I'm sorry, you're an idiot, mate, because it's been so obvious for so long. And the whole watermelon green thing is absolutely designed to do that. It's designed to make everyone in the West just as poor as everyone everywhere else.
oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I know you can, mate. You're an intelligent chap. That's why you're my friend. But I mean, you know, it's I don't know. Hound of Ulster, what are you saying here, mate? Do you think? I think
they've already made it mandatory.
I think they have.
Yeah, no.
I think they have, but like, what the British military have learned is they just did a 7-month plus around the world deployment with the biggest, most powerful British naval force that had done anything since the Falklands War in 1982. And they nearly had several minor mutinies on their ships because the guys were not allowed off. So they basically went around the world for over 7 months and were almost not allowed off their ships. And so everyone got more and more and more fucked off. And at the end of it, there was this enormously expensive British flyer which went over the side, either due to a mistake or due to someone just not paying attention. And I think that was all part of the same story. It was my son was on that deployment, by the way, on HMS Queen Elizabeth. And I can tell you, it was one of the most unpopular deployments the Royal Navy had ever done. Purely because no one was allowed. It should have been a dream deployment. It should have been the sort of thing that got British young men to go and join the Royal Navy, because I can go on this deployment and in 6 or 7 months, I'm going to go like 20 countries. Girl in every port, all this kind of stuff, you know. But they were hardly allowed off their ships because of this China virus bollocks. And it was a disaster in that sense. And the Royal Navy had played it down, but it was actually very, very, very unpopular.
No, I did hear about that, I think.
Yeah, people were really fucked off with it by the end of it. And whoa, I don't know, man. And also, you know, people didn't really like the fact that there were more American Marine aircraft on the flagship of the Royal Navy than there were British aircraft. Most people thought that was a bit strange too, to be honest. I mean, like, some American Marine aircraft could have been on there, but not most. Which is, you know, another reason against Alexander Johnson and his current Conservative Party. I mean, I say this every time I get, because people don't often realize that. At the time of the Falklands War in 1982, the Royal Navy had over 70 frigates and destroyers. Over 70. 70. And today, we have 17.
Decommissioning, wasn't it a John Major plan? I'm pretty sure.
Blair destroyed the Royal Navy because...
Oh, it was Blair, okay.
Yeah,
because I think it was Major who destroyed the Gurkhas. Because he expanded.
He did. But that's because of, like, the Hong Kong deal and all the rest of it. But what Blair did was he paid for the British Army getting people killed, maimed, and wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan for absolutely no pro-British purpose whatsoever by disbanding and selling Royal Navy warships.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Of course, it's not good.
So yeah, that's why I'm there. So yeah, there we go. All right, guys. I think we're coming to the end of this. Anything else you wanted to bring up, Joe? Sorry, Jovu. Anything else?
I was
you wanted
confused
to...
there. Oh.
No, I was just looking. I was looking at something you said in the chat. Sorry, Limbo. Anything you would like to bring up, Limbo?
No, I think it's been all right stream today. You know, just two people. We've dragged out for nearly 2 hours. That's a success in my eyes.
Well, actually, I was only going to go for an hour, but because I am really knackered. I haven't slept since Saturday, and it's almost 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, you know. But no, I keep it going if we're saying something interesting. So yeah, if you haven't got anything else, what do
we have
say?
A tune to?
Yeah, I do, but I've also got a stream I've got to plug in a minute. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
so
I see.
I'm gonna. What I'll do is I'll play us a stream, and then after I'll play us a tune. I beg your pardon. And then after the tune, I'll tell you guys about the stream I have tomorrow. Woohoo!
Yeah, no, that would sound good. Yeah, I'm probably gonna head off now because I got mass tomorrow, anyways.
Yeah, no worries. Limbo, thank you very much for coming on. You're always most welcome on my streams as my friend. So go on, mate.
Thank you, Duke. Thank you, Duke. It was a good time being here. Great stream, actually.
Interesting chat, mate. Go on.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, mate.
Drake is in his hammock and 1,000 miles away. Captain, but asleep in bed below, slung between the round shot in an ombre dios grey, and dreaming all the time of Plymouth Row. Yonder looms the island, yonder lie the ships, with sailor lads at dancing heel and toe. And the shore lights flashing, and the night tide dashing, he sees it all so plainly as he saw it long ago. Drake, he was a Devon man, and ruled the Devon seas. Captain of the sleeping below, from below his death fell, he went with heart at ease, and dreaming all the time of Plymouth Row. Take my drum to England, hang it by the shore, strike it when your powder's running low. But onside Devon, I quit the port of heaven, and run them up the channel as we drummed them long ago. Drake is in his hammock till the great hour is gone. Captain, I'm sleeping very low, slung between the round shot, listening for the drum, and dreaming all the time of Liverpool. Call him on the deep sea, call him up the storm, call him when he sailed to meet the foe. And the old race fly, and the old flags fly, they shall find him there and waiting. As they find him, oh.
Okay, that was Drake's drum. And you might have noticed that the sailor who was playing Drake's drum had HMS Amethyst on his the thing holding his drum. And that was when HMS Amethyst was held prisoner for a while by the Chinese Communist Party, until, of course, she very bravely broke out. And if you're interested in that, you can watch the movie The Amethyst Incident, which is pretty accurate for the most part. Anyway, thank you very much for Limbu for joining the stream, and I will be putting Limbu's channel details in the description in the low bar. So if you want to go and check out Limbu's videos, many of which are very good, you'll be able to do so. I've got a stream coming up tomorrow, chaps, with Colin Liddell of the Affirmative Right website. If you don't know Colin Liddell, he was one of the founders of the original Right, but has since kind of fallen out with the likes of various feds and all these people. But he's a good chap. And we'll be talking about good and bad things that have been happening on the right over the last, I don't remember now. I think this is my fourth stream with Colin Liddell. So probably over the last like 5 months, maybe. So we'll be talking about that. And we'd love to have you there. In the meantime, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because if you do, you'll get notice of the next stream we do. And I'm going to be doing quite a lot more history streams this year. So do that. In the meantime, go well, take care, and keep your chin up and never let the bastards grind you down. And we'll speak to you soon.